Shalom, Ahmed Yashar here. This week's Torah portion is called Wayar Balak, and Balak saw. This week's Torah portion begins in the book of Numbers, which can be found in the Law of Moses, the 22nd chapter. Its main focus is on the encounter between Bil'am and Bil'am was a prophet among the nations who apparently was faithful to express exactly as God would tell him to express, but whose intentions and desires in life were wicked and evil. So it's an interaction of Bil'am with Balak, a king of Moab, who wanted to have Bil'am somehow cause the destruction of the people of Israel by cursing them. This is due to Balak's superstitious and idolatrous beliefs that it is in the power of man's word to miraculously cause supernatural events. It is true from a Torah perspective that by submitting to God's will, God will cause supernatural things to occur. Not in general, it's not going to be obvious, but things that that in the greater picture, in the large picture, will seem clearly to indicate divine intervention. But that is different from the hocus pocus beliefs that certain times affect things, and that doing certain rituals will in and of themselves cause amazing things to happen. All of the rituals in the Torah that we do, all of the commandments that we do, if a miraculous thing occurs, it is not because of the action in and of itself, but because the action was done in accordance with the command of God. And God has promised, or had decided at the moment, that if the person does a particular action, then he will cause something else to occur. But the power is not in any amazing combination, hocus pocus, spells or whatever, as was the thought of Balak. So, basically, in this chapter you see that Balak sends some messengers to Bil'am. He wants him to come from his distant land of Aram towards the promised land and basically to join with him and his comrades in cursing the people of Israel, which they believe to give them success if would happen by having the people of Israel destroyed, that this would cause the destruction of the people of Israel. But Bil'am, again and again, he reiterates that he cannot do such cursing of the people of Israel if this is not what God commands him to do. He can only do what God tells him to do in his prophecies. So, if so, we have an interesting question here in the 20th verse of chapter 22. After God has already come to him and told him not to go with the messengers of Balak to go curse the people of Israel, suddenly here we see that God does come, and he, at this particular time, and suddenly says that he can go with the messengers of Balak. So why the change? It says, وَيُوَضَى أَلُوهِيمْ أَرْبَلْعَامْ لَيْلًا, and God came to Bil'am in the night. وَيُمَارَ لَا إِمْ نِقْرَى لَخَا بَأُوهَا أَنُوشِيمْ قُومْ لَخْ إِتَمْ. And God said to him, if the people have come to call you to go with them, arise and go with them. أخ أثد دvar أشار دبر لها أثوث عسى. Only being that the word which I shall speak to you, that you should do. Now here you see a difference immediately between Bil'am, the prophet of the idolatrous nations, and Moshe, the ultimate prophet of the people of Israel, the nation which God himself made. And that is that throughout the Hebrew Bible you see that whenever the people of Israel are acting particularly rebellious as a whole, there are always a group who are exceptions. You see that whenever God comes to Moses and he gives the opportunity for some calamitous destruction to occur to the people of Israel, that Moses will rise to the occasion and give out a heartfelt prayer, fall upon his face, and beseech God's mercy for the people of Israel. Not that they should continue in their wickedness, but that God should have mercy upon them, remember his covenant, for God has already commanded and promised that the commandments would be kept forever, and that God will fulfill his side of the covenant that he made with the forefathers Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So therefore it is impossible that God would either utterly destroy the people of Israel so that none would remain, or that it is not in the interest of the ultimate plan that they should be severely destroyed. And there you see, not that God is giving this opportunity because God actually wants the people of Israel to be destroyed, but rather that in the merit of Moses' action, that the wickedness will stop, or that the people of Israel will hear the reiteration of Moses to God in its prayer of the importance and God's faithfulness to the covenant, and therefore repent, or that the merit of Moses recalling the actions of the forefathers and God's promise to them, that this will counterweigh the negative, side of the scale, which is tipping the people of Israel towards some sort of disaster. This is all in the context of national judgment. There is personal judgment, where each person's good and negative deeds are weighed with regard to what kind of occurrences will happen to the person in this world, not talking about the afterworld right now. And there's also a scale, so to speak, of the good and the bad with regard to whole nations and peoples, so as to determine what types and to what extent different negative occurrences or positive occurrences will occur to a people. So that's the explanation on that with Moses. But here you see where, as opposed to before, that God did not allow Bil'am to go with the messengers of Balak to curse the people of Israel, suddenly here you see that God allows Bil'am to go with the messengers, and certainly it is not with intention to do good to the people of Israel. So he lets Bil'am go. He even says it in command form, Qum lech itam, arise, go with them, putting on the condition that you only speak what I tell you to speak. So here was the opportunity for Bil'am to rise to the occasion and be a righteous servant of God and speak on behalf of the people of Israel, to declare God's faithfulness to the world, to reaffirm God's faithfulness and the covenant made with the people of Israel. This makes sense to somebody who understands the purpose of the forming of the people of Israel. That would be a separate video. But no, instead you see that Bil'am just gets right up and goes along with the messengers of Balak. He doesn't make any protest. God said I can do it, so I'm going to do it. I'm going to get right on the way and get there as quickly as possible to see maybe there's some other way we can do negative things to the people of Israel, if not specifically to curse them by mouth, which is exactly what ends up happening. So you see, in the next verse, so Bil'am got up bright and early in the morning to saddle up his donkey and get on the way. No waiting around. And then you see in verse 22, here you see something very strange. And the anger of God burned, for he went. Bil'am went. And so, understood in the context, God made an angel, the angel of the Lord, to stand in the way, to oppose him, or to be an adversary to him, to Bil'am. As he rides upon his donkey, and the two youths with him. Those are the messengers of Balak. So why is God getting angry over Bil'am going on his way if God just commanded him less than just 2 verses before that you should you should rise and go with them? So again, this just further indicates that his intentions were wicked. He's not simply going because God commanded him to go, but he's going with hopes of some other way in which contributing to the destruction of Israel would be permitted. You see here the interesting use of the term Satan in English, Satan in Hebrew. The term Satan in the Torah, remember the Torah should be our foundation for understanding the rest of the Hebrew Bible, that Satan doesn't mean some intrinsically morally wicked being that's floating around in the air or something of that sort. Here Satan is the angel of the Lord, it is the angel of God. And as Rashi says, Rashi is one of the commentators on the Hebrew Bible. He's actually the most popularly learned. So here Rashi says that God sent this angel in order to do a favor to Bil'am in hopes that Bil'am would stop, contemplate, and perhaps repent of his evil desires. But we see that it didn't happen. So a Satan, an adversary, or a devil if you like, the calamitous things that occur in our life, those things are not intrinsically evil or morally bad. They are sent by God to sharpen our character traits and to sharpen us, to refine us in serving the Creator and being better individuals. If we fail the test, it could be that the Satan would cause us to become morally depraved, but that moral depravity is us ourselves choosing to give in to the Satan. It is not a moral depravity of the force or angelic being that is sent by God to give the challenge. The only negativity is when we fail the challenge. But if you rise to the challenge and overcome, then it refines you. So we see, I have a question here for verse 23. It speaks about how the donkey saw the angel of the Lord standing in the way with his sword drawn. So I have a question here. Rashi on this particular verse says that the reason that the angel appeared with the sword drawn was to teach something regarding Bil'am and the ways in which warfare is usually fought among the nations as opposed to with the people of Israel. And so my question is, I could understand that if we're talking about after Bil'am is already seeing the angel with his sword drawn, which has not yet occurred. But yet we see that more than once the seeing of the donkey seeing the angel is reiterated. So what connection does the donkey seeing the angel have to do with the sword being drawn? That is my question. I'm not going to answer it right now. Not necessarily have a great answer, so I'd like to hear your thoughts on that one. We'll continue going on. It says in verse 25, and the donkey saw and the donkey, upon seeing the angel of the Lord, pressed against the wall, and the foot of Bil'am became pressed against the wall, and he added upon his beatings of her. So this indicates that he had already been beating her. And then suddenly you get to the point where you have the widely known part of the story.